Hey there, welcome to episode 144 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, as usual, Dan Hugo. We're recording this at 12:14 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time here in the Greater Vegas area on Thursday, August 27th, 2026. We do normally publish new episodes on Thursdays, so here we are. Today's title and topic, Dating Advice Tube. If you're not familiar with the FFS Talk audio program, or the format perhaps, this is a program that is intended to be about conversation, discussion, debate, argument, hopefully no fisticuffs, around a particular topic, as I just mentioned, today's. Has there ever been someone with which to have these interactions? Not yet. I prefer to think of these initial couple hundred episodes as seeds planted for future conversation and discussion. At any time, anyone could say, oh, I have a different view on, episode 38 or something. So have I reached out to try to encourage that? Nah, not really that much. While arguing is interesting, I'll use the word fun. It's more fun to just share my views. But again, this is the beginning of a future conversation with somebody who may have differing views on dating advice tube. So what does that even mean? Oh, I'll get to it. Hang on. So that's the concept. The format in general, in a solo episode where I'm presenting these ideas, planting the seeds, the format is easier to stick to. It's what works, what does not work, and what we might do about it. So identify the things that are not a problem, identify the things that are a problem, and of course those are opinions, or there may be other, that the lists may swap with another person expressing their opinions, and then ideally come together towards the end and say, okay, what can we do about it? What can we agree on that is would be an improvement, or that represents something working or being functional, right? So yeah, there you go. The intent is to move the ball forward, as they say. So we'll do that eventually. In the meantime, if you don't know what FFS means, by the way, you should hang out with more Irish people. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I will read to you. The episode links, there are only two. This is show links, so nothing special for today's episode. And a newly added AI disclosure. We'll get to that in a second. So let's get to that summary. Anyone can find or give advice about anything on YouTube and other media outlets, no matter your education or expertise. Should that be nor expertise? No, I think it's or your expertise. One disclaimer and you're off the hook. And so, among other things, we have more advice on how to meet women than anyone should encounter in a lifetime. And I am going to be speaking about the men seeking women category, I guess. Obviously, there are many ways to meet many different kinds of people. What you are looking for may be different from what I'm looking for, and vice versa, and so on and so on. I happen to encounter this particular variation, and so that's the one I'm talking about. I also have to wonder, I think the attitudes are so entrenched that there is some feel there's a need to provide this advice for clicks and views, and B, it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon, the way things work, if you will. So people feel the need to give all manner of the missing manual, and so we'll see what goes on here. But it would be interesting to know how, like, I have gay people that I know, and I know people who look for other things. I've never really brought up the topic of, like, how does this actually work from your perspective? So that would be an interesting conversation as well. It would be good to know. I think there would be something to learn. Yeah, I won't go into. I've had some conversations, and it's been interesting. I think it's worth it for more people to know more about how other people think and what they do and how they do it and how we all fit together and so on and so on. So maybe a little optimistic The links, as usual, the FFS Talk homepage, ffstalk.com. There you will find links to, you'll find a player for the current episode of the audio program. I will say that I don't like the player. I don't like the website as it is right now. So there's some work to be done there. There's this platform that gathers up links on podcatcher and podcast playing applications mostly. So if you're a mobile device listener and you have any number of, it looks like a couple dozen applications and you want to subscribe, I should be linking to that so people have that resource, for example. So it's on the list, I promise. Really, I do promise. The profile page linking everything, founded in March, my profile page founded in March of 2021. So 5.5 years or so. The profile page linking everything at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. There you will find links to all of my various audio programs. I need to add that platform link there too. I think it's pod.link. In fact, I could check that right now, but this is not the time nor the place for discussing pod. Yeah, it's pod.link. So I'll have more direct links there. It's on the list. You don't have to spend any money at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You'll find those links. You'll find some biographical information, some links to projects that I'm working on, and affiliate links. You don't have to click on them, but they are affiliate links. Be warned, including things that I actually use and buy. So I have a few of my favorite coffee beans. I think most of them are available on Amazon. I need to add QV. I just had some QV Stella Cometa and Carmadillo. Those are two of my favorites from that particular roastery. They really are amazing, I have to say. Not paid to say it, just I just finished the Carmadillo. And yeah, they're really good. They're a little expensive, but if you can get a deal, if you can get a discount or something, you should check them out. Affiliate links, of course, don't add anything to the price, but I would somehow get enough money to buy 3 or 4 coffee beans, perhaps. So anyway, as well, you'll find the Buy Me an Update audio program published first at buymeacoffee.com/danhugo/posts. The idea with Buy Me an Update was to make use of this platform that I've had for a while and post some content there and see what happens. People don't go to Buy Me a Coffee to listen to a podcast. So I publish it there first, and this was not a partnership or an affiliation of any kind. It was just, I can do this. Let me try it. So I posted there first, but I post the Buy Me an Update audio program episodes on Monday mornings, 2 hours later to the other places. So you can find that program. It's 5 minutes or less. Last week, the previous week's audio program summaries and news and announcements. So check that out. And yeah, you don't have to spend any money. If you do, any proceeds coming at me through the Buy Me a Coffee platform go towards buying coffee. That's how that works. The AI disclosure is a new addition thanks to YouTube. YouTube marks some of my various episodes across my multiple programs that I produce and publish as AI. So I've started adding this disclosure. I may backport it to all the previous episodes. That would be time consuming if I can't automate it. So we'll see. So the AI disclosure, I'll just go through the 3 bullets here in case you're not looking at it, but it will appear mostly for the sake of YouTube, but just in general, so people know. Let me pause for a moment. Okay, there had to be some water to be consumed there. So unless otherwise specified, all writing and speaking contained in this episode of FFS Talk is 100% human. One episode of Let's Innovate for Vegas, I included at the very end of the program, I tacked on some audio that, if you've seen the Gemini, is it Gemini? No, Notebook LM, and now it's just Gemini Notebook. When they first rolled that out, you could upload an article, and then it would automatically generate a 2-person, 1 woman, 1 man, or at least the voices sounded like that, discussion or conversation as though they were doing a 2-person, podcast / listening in on a conversation style, right? So I tacked that on at the end as an example of please don't do this. So in that case, it was 95% because I pasted in that stuff. But it was at the end, and I certainly disclaimed that this is not me. Anyway, yeah, 100%. All of my programs, I write them and speak them. Surely if this was AI generated voice, it would sound better, I would hope. Cover art, on the other hand, is usually a single frame image, 1400 by 1400 pixels, and may be constructed with a combination of generative AI. I do have a Canva account, and I sometimes use Gemini, so it could be any of those, or maybe somewhere else. Sorry, I had to pause real quick. And so it could be generative AI that I make, or it could be an image that was generated that I may or may not know was generated, if I'm going to include that. Clip art. That's one of the nice things about Canva is it has a large library of, royalty-free clip art. I sometimes take photos myself and use those. So it could be real photography, could be other visual elements, who knows, various typefaces for logos and titling and so on. The logos themselves also, and other miscellaneous elements. So the cover art may or may not be human generated. Often is not 100% human generated. So I've been saying that in my programs the whole time. So not a secret. And then a single cover art image may be converted to video. That's what happens on YouTube. So the same disclosures apply. The YouTube podcast feature can pull episodes from an RSS feed, which it does. And so it will make that determination and apply the AI label without actually enabling me or the producer or whatever, the publisher of the content, to change that. I haven't seen a way. So it basically is set, and then you cannot edit that setting. You normally would be able to set that when you upload. So apparently it's taking that on itself. So I just want to be clear about that. And the AI disclosures, for the sake of people who may or may not listen, depending on that tag, and maybe the AI robot that determines or reads maybe it reads the comments and says, oh, it's still AI generated, but they don't differentiate an audio podcast with an AI generated cover frame, single frame, to me is not AI content, but we can debate that another time. All that said, dating advice tube. So YouTube. I don't really use, or I deleted and stopped really consuming TikTok content a long time ago. And short form content is a little weird anyway. TikTok is just a little bit creepy. And then Instagram Reels, not really. Unreels. So mostly we're talking about YouTube today, but I would certainly be open to the comparisons. So to introduce the topic, I'm speaking anecdotally. There are countless so-called experts on YouTube about everything, probably on other platforms as well, offering advice, in this case, to men seeking connection with women. And I'm sure it goes in other directions. There are some for women seeking men, and I have not seen anything other than heterosexual-oriented advice, but the algorithm is probably doing that. It is both women advising men and men advising men as far as the content that is offered to me by YouTube. I don't think I'm subscribed to any of the. There might be one. I think there's one person who actually is much more about going over statistics and studies, and she actually surveys audience and so on. I think she's actually into physical fitness. Anyway, so I think I might subscribe to one person because the approach was interesting. It was a little bit more scientific or data driven, but generally speaking, it's recommendations. And as we know about the algorithm, once you get one recommendation and you click on it, it's over. So yeah, how did I stumble into this arena? Well, I clicked on the one recommended video on YouTube, and maybe a few days later, and it probably was the one that I actually subscribed to, and that does it in. It's over at that point. I can't remember her name, but I'm not really here to plug any of these. But yeah, if you're going to present data and studies and whatnot, and you're not Scott Galloway, then you might be interesting. Then I started to look at this niche, which is apparently substantial in size, and I'm sort of amazed. And then, of course, once you click on some more, then if it was over before, it's really over. It's definitely over. So I get recommended these videos by all kinds of characters all the time. Almost a frantic character to the overall presentation is what I'm seeing now. Not like their panic mode, but I mean just the nature of it's just a nonstop onslaught of the same views, the same tropes, and then also, of course, the differences. Some people will take this approach, some will say that, and always entertaining, I guess, always looking for the clicks. This varies with each creator, and I have not visited TikTok nor Instagram, as I said, in a very long time. So I don't really have any insights about those. I have to imagine in the world we live in, everyone is posting on every platform, so who knows? There's something afoot, perhaps. My question. This did not begin with Scott Galloway, this notion that men need help. But surely he is among the higher profile characters, pointing to the apparent trend away from people meeting and even dating. And so there are those who would like to help with that by making helpful YouTube and other videos and other content, among other approaches, to reignite what I suppose is the future of humanity. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's the tendency for people to clicks and views. That's what it comes down to. And that's always a question we have to ask ourselves when we're watching or consuming anything on the internet. What's the motivation? Are they trying to help me, or are they trying to monetize? So what works in this realm? When we attempt to describe what works in this realm, I forgot I wrote the word out. It was in my head. Sorry, double realm. We are really being vague about what it means to be a working approach to whatever success metrics are. That is, so not only how to do it, but the actual approach. Men must approach is a common thread. And then what does success really mean in this case? What are the success metrics? What works? But if we say that culture in the US and probably in the West in general leans toward men asking women out and not really the other way around, then it is possible that the content itself, with a wide spectrum of suggestions all over the map, will itself motivate someone somewhere, probably someone fairly young, to jump into the dating pool. Maybe they've just never done it before, or at least try to. That is probably okay, especially, one way to learn something is somebody shows you or tells you or gives you some advice or just direction, and then you try it, right? And then you say, oh, okay, this didn't work for me. That was a good start, but now you learn your own way of doing things, your own personality and your own way of conducting a conversation and so on. And we'll get to that in a second. So many of these creators often offer anecdotes of their own, perhaps, maybe retold stories from somebody else, especially if they're dating coaches or wing women or wingmen. They probably have their view of what was happening when they were out and about with their client or friend or whoever, charge. Or sometimes they have video clips that they react to and comment on from others retelling, in the video clips, people retelling their own dating adventures, good and bad. This may be useful for people who are actively socializing out in the world, or maybe online, as a way to compare and contrast, perhaps. Hopefully people have that mental agility to say, like, oh, here's what I was trying to accomplish, and I'm watching in this video or hearing this story, and I can compare, oh, yeah, okay, I shouldn't start off by, whatever. Maybe not advice so much as an aha moments, perhaps. Something like, oh, maybe that's what happened in my case, right? You see something similar, you hear a similar story, you say, oh, okay, yeah, that explains. I should start off with how you doing. If we are pragmatic, anecdotes can be an interesting and even useful set of examples for this personal reflection. So I think that's probably just fine, my opinion. If anything, the profoundly poor economics of so-called dating apps has become a topic of discussion, which may be pushing people back into the in real life social situations and engagements. This doesn't need to be about dating so much as human interaction without screens between, like actually talking to a person in person, AFK, away from keyboard, as they say. And this is probably more healthy in general for friendships, business, dating, and whatever else you can think of. So it doesn't always have to be about dating. It doesn't always have to be about, oh, I got to get a phone number, right? It could be about developing your business, finding new clients, which is what some of the content creators are doing. Hey, I'm a dating coach, don't forget. I am not, but some of them are. Just meeting new people. You move to a new city or a new place in general. You start a new job. just the ability to interact with other people you don't know already and to get to know people, that's a valuable skill in general. So that could apply to dating. In fact, I would wonder if focusing too much on dating or that whole entire vertical kind of forgets the notion that maybe you're just meeting a person and then see what happens. So there always has to be an agenda up front in these presentations, which I think is a little bit troubling. That's for the next section. So, and I totally forgot what I was going to expound on. Somebody motivating to just meet people. Okay, well, maybe it'll come to me. I have a bunch of stuff already written down, so we're good. So what does not work? And again, my opinion, a reminder that these are my opinions. Yours may vary. And that is the first point. There is so much diversity in the style, character, analysis, and advice given by these various content creators with some common tropes. Is she pointing her feet at you? Is he offering to buy? Is he asking about you or talking about himself? You know, like, there's all these little, this checklist. It's a checklist of things. Some common tropes and some wildly divergent opinions, and so maybe that's what makes it entertaining. Like people in general, we have some things in common, but each individual is exactly that individual. There may be issues if creators which feed confirmation bias may not really be helping anyone, but guiding or even pushing their audience in a direction that doesn't work for them at all. Because remember, clicks and views matter more. So yeah, you always have to consider the source, as I was saying earlier. They definitely want you to come back and continue watching their channel and comment and engage in general and so on. It might be interesting to look at how they conduct their channel and wonder if that's how they conduct interacting with humans in real life, whether it's dating or whatever. I have to wonder if introduction of too much technique, too much gesture and movement analysis, and in general a checklist of what to look for and what to do can turn the adventure that is socializing, and it could be anything, right? How to meet new friends, step one. Like, no. That's weird. It turns it into a mechanical exercise that might actually undo any natural, more organic interaction. Like, yeah, are you reading a checklist? Can't you just speak like that's problematic, I think. If I am resting my hopes on a collection of body language checkboxes and a variety of prescribed approach methodologies, start off with a question, I may miss out on simply meeting someone and having a nice conversation that may be the start of something we are both looking for. Imagine that. So it's almost like a little bit too much of a push. So, my opinion. By the way, I should point out, I watch these for my own entertainment and to kind of see, just like when I watch movie reaction videos, kind of like to see where people are when they view a movie that I'm familiar with, get the reaction of the modern day viewer for movies from the 80s, for example. But so in general, it's interesting to see what sorts of advice. Why I watch commentators from both sides of the political aisle, for example. So it's interesting to see what people are saying and how they're saying it and so on. We are a media-driven world anyway. So third point, for what does not work, while these content creators, some claim to be therapists, dating coaches, wing women, wing men, and so many possibilities, who knows, are tending to suggest getting away from the apps and back toward in-person socializing, there is very little suggestion that traditional expectations may be a part of the problem. So that's, again, my opinion. The content I am exposed to, and the algorithm is doing it, so I really don't have, I don't have the scientific depth to really make an assertion here. So these are anecdotal recollections I'm basing these on. The stuff I'm watching skews much more in the traditional direction. It is entirely possible that women are telling me one thing and telling women something different. But my sense is the old standby remains. Men must approach women, full stop. I don't know that that's healthy. I understand the reasoning, because that's just the way it always is. And that's human nature, and that's cultural direction that we've all received for our whole lives. And we watching video, watching movies, television, everything we read and listen to and hear about and observe seems to suggest that that's the way it is. And I have to wonder if that's something a little bit regressive. So what can we do about it? I mean, it's almost like saying, oh, women should stay home. And come on, Come on. Start off with people should do something, right? Maybe you don't have to start off with, I don't know. So what can we do about it? Anyone can be a content creator at this point, and with monetization, often the main driver, except for me, I don't monetize any of the stuff I'm doing, for better or worse, either directly or indirectly. So a dating coach will give some advice in what is essentially a native advertisement, and then sign up as a client to learn the rest of the story, as is often the case. So they're always trying to get you to, I mean, I don't want to make, oh, they are always doing this. But if you watch someone who makes a living doing something and they're going to talk about it in a conversational marketing, right? Then at some point they're going to say, oh yeah, I can help you out. Here's my number. Here's my website. Sign up and we'll talk about, we can continue. I can give you more detail, etc. It's totally normal. So I'm not really faulting, but you do have to keep that in mind. So the goal is clients most of the time. Sorry, unpause. This is not to say that they're only the content creators. They are only, like, they're not nefarious. They're not, but you just have to keep it in mind. That's they're trying to make a living. Maybe trying to be helpful too, but maybe in that order. I myself have no background in psychology nor in evolutionary biology, for examples. I have no idea what it would take to balance the expectations, but it sure seems as though meeting, we could call it first contact, could take many forms. And so often, again, they're prescribing like a particular, man sees woman, woman sees man's, looks and then looks away. Man must go over and say, like, there's this whole crank that they would like to turn in these presentations. And I'm just going by what I've seen and heard. Hopefully your mileage varies, as everyone should. There is a presumption that meeting out in the world must take place in a context that suggests, like in a business setting, for example, proaction is a good thing from whomever. Hey, you want to pay your bills, you got to get clients, or you want to get the deal, you want to sign the deal, you have to be proactive. So nobody is saying, well, if you're a man, you should walk up to, I hope they're not doing that. So in some senses, there's the general be proactive, go after what you want, achieve, accomplish, win. Sure, good. But in a context wrapping a search for romance of some kind, in the dating context, only one side of the room is to be proactive. You can look, you can glance and then glance away. You can bat the eyelashes, whatever. I think that's it's kind of old school. Should the expectations and practices adapt to the times? So that's an open question. That would be something to have an interesting conversation about. I'm not particularly looking, as I intimated earlier, so I'm not actually out and about trying to find the tips and techniques and this will seem a little bit crazy, but if you or someone you know is on the market, as they say, and is consulting these sorts of resources for advice and instruction, perhaps these might be somewhat useful as conversation starters or the basis of conversation among friends, rather than accepting solo viewing as some form of education. In other words, if you and I and maybe one or two or three other people were to watch any of the things that I've watched over the past couple of weeks, and I do mean like 2 or 3 weeks that I've been sort of letting these play, or like, oh, what is this one going to be? It's been an interesting undertaking, but I'm just watching them by myself. So if we were to actually watch as a little group activity, we might have comments. We might have an in-person reaction, and we could learn from, like, oh, that's dumb, or oh, that sounds interesting. I've never really thought about the fact that I think one of the things that if I was going to take one thing that seems interesting or educational, and this is just human nature, is to not start off with generic stories. If you're trying to meet someone in a romantic, with romantic intent, too often it'll be, oh, I went there once, and you've taken the conversation into me, and I've joked about this. I've been sitting a table or two away, and I can hear a conversation going on where people are doing this, where two people that are probably on a date just don't know how to engage the other person, so they just talk about themselves the whole time. So to hear examples of that, it becomes very clear that, taking an interest in someone else, just like saying someone else's name, it's the sweetest sound they'll ever hear, right? So enable someone to talk about themselves. by drawing it out of them, make that the topic, and then they can do the same for you. And then but if you take the guy, it's almost like taking the right away instead of giving it, right? If you drive a vehicle. So that's kind of interesting. And that's the sort of conversation that might be helpful to all involved in the reaction group. They used to say in the old days that people don't, well, this is probably more true among men than women, but people don't really help each other so much in this regard anymore. People are too wrapped up in their phones. So they're not, the wing woman, wingman concept has faded so much. That's opinion. I don't know if that's true. Maybe you would have some insights on that. But the person on the screen has no idea who you are, who I am, or anything. So they're giving this fairly generic advice based on their own experiences, perhaps, or maybe they're a dating coach, or maybe they're a therapist or psychologist, or it could be anything. I've seen them all. The people around you might introduce you to their own other interesting, their other interesting friends, their own friends. And personal referral is a classic, no matter how much hair preening and feet pointing may or may not be going on. And if you've ever watched these, you know, 5 reasons that say she's interested in you. And that's very clearly trying to tell a man looking to meet and or date someone, like, oh, well, look for the woman who's looking at you and touching her hair. And if she's talking to you, are her feet pointed to it? You know, there's all these things. You hear them so often. It's almost like programming. I think that's unhealthy. I think it's weird. But maybe you have some opinions. I don't know. Hopefully. I just find these entertaining at this point, but they're strange and interesting from the point of view that so many people who create this content, they're very clearly doing it for clicks, right? If the title or especially if it's a short, you know, they'll have some on-screen text and it's 5 signs she's into you, 5 signs she's not into you. And occasionally there will be one that slips in there, 5 signs he's into you, 5 signs. But like I said, mostly the recommendation engine has pegged me as not pegged, has marked me as a male, a heterosexual male, right? So that's the content I'm going to be seeing. I'm hoping that there are other examples of this that can be useful for conversation, but I really tend to come down on the, in-person conversation and see what happens. If you are going out to date, you can, I was rejected. But if you, well, you know what? I'm gonna end on the Tao of Steve, which was a fine movie. The first half of it was more entertaining, I think. Donald Logue, great performance. The Tao of Steve he simplifies it too, and I remember this because I think it's so interesting, and it applies to not just dating, but he's talking about dating or trying to meet people for that. He says, be desireless. So if you go in hungry, everybody knows. It could be business, could be, whatever it is. If you're desperate or if you smell desperate, if you're acting like you're I got to get this deal, then people are going to know, and it alters the engagement. So be desireless, be excellent. That's just good advice anyway. Do something that makes people remember you, and then be gone, leave. We pursue that which retreats from us. And again, could be business, could be anything. So if you be, essentially what it comes down to is be yourself, be cool, be a decent human. Other people can notice. And if you have a strategy, you make sure people notice, and then move on to the next thing. And then you may be the conversation after you leave, and then that will lead to the next conversation. So I found that interesting when I watched that movie. I was like, you know what, that is kind of interesting in general. Don't spend your time strategizing too much other than those 3 things, but be yourself, do something. Just, if the first 2 really are be yourself, right? Be yourself, and then come back next time. And if you are interesting to someone and you are interested in them or whatever, see what happens. Business, dating, whatever it is. So that's probably that's probably the best universal advice I've ever seen. Be yourself. Be yourself and see what happens. Really, that's the distillation. So, but yeah, I think these YouTube videos, and there's so much YouTube advice out there. It's kind of troubling and it's kind of weird, but it's also kind of entertaining and kind of interesting. So what do you think? That's where I'm going to leave it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, don't forget, FFS Talk is about the conversation, the debate, the discussion, the argument. I have yet to have one on this program, so we should change that at some point. In the meantime, every Thursday, some new thing to argue with myself about. Take care, and we'll catch you on the next one. And don't forget, you can read or listen to on YouTube. You can read the transcripts, which is why I publish to YouTube. You can listen in, or you can read. All the previous episodes are available, and maybe there's some topic that interests you that you would like to discuss further. Take care. Have a great weekend, whatever day you're listening to this on, and bye.